Have you ever wondered why some Japanese mornings seem to calm the body, while so many Western mornings seem to stir quiet cellular stress? And what if the difference is not unusual genes at all, but a small first-hour ritual your own kitchen may be missing today? I am a physician, and I have watched quiet...
Understanding your health is important, and I am here to help guide you through it with confidence and clarity.
I will show you why that first window shapes repair, immune readiness, and cell stress. That is the surprise. Most people miss it. Stay with me, because near the end, I will share one 10-second morning tip worth keeping. Welcome, and thank you for being here. After 50, daily repair often becomes less automatic than it once was. That changes the rules. In medicine, we often meet people at the wrong end of the story. The scan appears when no one
Welcome.
expected
I'm glad
real
you're
trouble.
here.
The
Take a
biopsy
moment
follows,
and let's discuss
suddenly
your
the whole
health.
room feels different. Then comes the question nobody wanted to ask sooner. How long has this been building? For many chronic diseases, the body manages tiny stress signals for years before symptoms become obvious. Cells face oxidation, inflammation, blood sugar swings, and copying errors as part of normal life. The body monitors damage, repairs it, and clears some abnormal cells before they gain ground. But after 50, that protective work can become less efficient when routine keeps adding pressure from rushed meals and stress. That protection is not gone, but it is less forgiving than before, and that is why ordinary routine suddenly matters far more than most people expect. That is the warning. One reason Japan draws curiosity is that some protective patterns look almost too simple to matter. People see longer-lived communities and assume the answer must be ancestry or luck. But genes alone do not explain what happens when food patterns and morning rhythms change across generations, jobs, and modern schedules. That is why this topic belongs to you, not only to Japanese people. Habits changed first, and biology answered in predictable ways. The first 1 to 2 hours after waking are not biologically empty. They are a transition window your body reads very quickly. Stress hormones are shifting before breakfast has even begun. Hydration is being corrected after the long night. Glucose handling is setting the tone. And inflammatory signals are shaped by what comes first, what is skipped, and what is added. Very early, a rushed, sugary, dehydrating, or highly processed start can push that system the wrong way and keep it there for hours. A steadier start can support a calmer internal environment as recovery slows with age and daily strain becomes harder to erase. That is where practical hope begins for older adults. Not magic, and not a guarantee. One truth is that risk is not governed by a miracle food or a forbidden ingredient. It is shaped by terrain, repeated exposures, and the balance between damage and repair over time. That is why small, repeatable morning behaviors deserve more attention than many people give them. If your first choices raise glucose stress, dehydration, or oxidative load, the body spends hours compensating instead of protecting more efficiently. If your first choices steady those pressures, you may support a more protective environment before midday, when many adults already feel spent. That matters even more for adults facing age, poor sleep, family history, or rushed eating. Many adults over 50 wake tired, eat quickly, drink something sweet, and assume that pattern is harmless or simply normal aging. That is common. That is where this Japanese habit starts to matter. It is simple, inexpensive, and realistic for ordinary mornings. Yet it works best as a sequence, not as a buzzword. The goal is not perfection. The goal is fewer biological insults before noon. I am talking about a Japanese-style morning pattern built around unsweetened green tea, timing, and pairing. Ahead, I will show why this ritual keeps appearing in aging discussions after 50. First, how it may help lower unnecessary oxidative stress. Second, how it may support steadier glucose instead of spikes that feed a harsher internal environment. Third, how it may support DNA protective housekeeping in terms that are modest and worth understanding. I will also show the breakfast mistakes that can cancel those benefits before noon. So no, this is not about curing cancer. It is about learning one repeatable ritual that may help make mornings more protective, starting tomorrow. After 50, the body is still fighting for you, but it does not police damage the way it once did. That is the quiet change. Cells still divide, repair crews still work, immune cells still patrol, but the margin for error narrows, and small daily conditions begin to matter more than most people realize. This is where many viewers miss the real danger. They imagine cancer risk as one dramatic exposure, one family trait, or one bad piece of luck. In real life, risk also grows inside a biological setting. If that setting becomes easier for abnormal cells to hide in, easier for unhelpful vessel signals to rise in, and harder for damaged DNA to be corrected, the body has a steeper hill to climb. That becomes more relevant with age. The National Institute on Aging notes that DNA damage accumulates with aging and that researchers study how this damage contributes to senescence and age-related disease. The immune system matters here too. Its job is not only to fight germs, it also helps respond to cell changes that can make you ill. When that system becomes less sharp, early trouble may be less likely to be cleared quickly. Now add the third layer. Abnormal cell clusters do not grow well for long unless the surrounding environment cooperates. They need signals, fuel, and eventually a blood supply. That is why inflammation, insulin strain, disrupted body clocks, and long sedentary hours matter more than people think. They do not act like a movie villain. They act like a favorable climate, and the morning is when that climate begins to get set. The first hour or two after waking is when your light exposure, movement, hydration, and first meal start sending timing signals across the whole system. Miss that window often enough, and many adults begin the day in a fog of sitting, sweet drinks, fast starch, and late body clock alignment. Use it well, and you can tilt biology in a steadier direction. That is why I want to frame this Japanese habit correctly. It is not a secret. It is a repeatable first-hour ritual. In the Japanese-style routine, I want you to remember, the protective logic is simple. Wake the clock, move the body, and eat a calm, savory first meal instead of a chaotic one. The version I want you to remember has 3 parts. Morning light with a short walk, unsweetened green tea as a beverage, not a pill, and a small Japanese-style breakfast built around soy and plant fiber, not sugar. Each part supports the same larger goal. Give the body a cleaner signal at the beginning of the day, so immune surveillance, metabolic control, and repair work are not starting from behind. How many adults over 50 are giving away the most biologically valuable hour of their day without ever realizing it may shape how well their body protects itself? If that gave you your first real value today, comment "protect" right now, and let that one word stay with you as a daily reminder that better health can begin with one smarter morning choice. That is the frame. Now let us open it carefully. Start with the clock. One of the reasons a Japanese-style first hour can be powerful is that it respects timing before it chases nutrition. If you wake up, sit indoors under dim light, scroll your phone, delay movement, and then hit the body with sweet coffee and refined breakfast food, your system gets a messy opening signal. Energy rises quickly, then falls. Hunger returns too soon. Inflammation and glucose handling can move in the wrong direction. And for older adults, that repeated pattern can quietly support the kind of internal instability we do not want. Circadian disruption is not a small issue. The National Toxicology Program has recognized persistent night shift work that causes circadian disruption as a cancer hazard setting, which tells us that timing biology is not cosmetic. It matters. This does not mean you must live perfectly. It means the body clock deserves respect. That is why component 1 is so simple. Get outdoor morning light into your eyes indirectly, not by staring at the sun, and move your body for a few minutes. A gentle walk is enough to begin. You are not trying to burn calories. You are telling the clock what time it is. You are also waking up circulation, muscle glucose handling, and nervous system tone. Then comes component 2, green tea. Not because green tea is magic, not because 1 cup can block cancer, and not because Japan owns a miracle leaf. But as a morning beverage, unsweetened green tea can fit a protective pattern better than a sugar-heavy drink. It brings fluid, it can replace sweetened coffee shop calories, and it contains catechins that researchers continue to study for their biological effects. At the same time, major NIH sources are careful. Studies of green tea and cancer in people have had inconsistent results, and we cannot say it prevents cancer. As a beverage in moderate amounts, though, it is generally considered safe for adults. Extract pills are a different story. That caution matters, because it keeps us honest. So why keep the tea in the ritual if the human evidence is mixed? Because this ritual is not a one-compound fantasy. It is a systems habit. Green tea is one piece inside a larger morning environment. If it helps you replace liquid sugar, if it nudges you toward a calmer breakfast, and if it becomes a cue for consistency, it earns its place. Now component 3, the breakfast itself. A Japanese-style first meal can be smaller, less sugary, and more savory than the breakfast many adults fall into. Think tofu or natto, miso soup, vegetable, seaweed, or leftovers from a simple dinner, sometimes with rice in a modest portion. The important feature is not cultural theater, it is biological pacing. Protein arrives earlier, fiber arrives earlier. Fermented or minimally processed foods often replace pastries, sweet cereal, syrup, and oversized bakery items. That shift matters because the morning meal is not just breakfast, it is a message. When the first meal is mostly sugar and refined starch, blood glucose rises quickly, insulin has to answer aggressively, hunger often rebounds early, and the body starts the day with a more unstable pattern. When the first meal is steadier, muscles and liver handle fuel more calmly, cravings often soften, and the inflammatory noise can be lower. That connects directly to our three pathways. First, immune surveillance works best in a body that is not constantly dragged by metabolic chaos. Second, abnormal cells thrive better in a setting that keeps feeding inflammatory and growth signals. Third, DNA handling and repair do not benefit from a system that is repeatedly stressed, underslept, overfed with sugar, and poorly timed. Again, this does not mean breakfast cures anything. It means breakfast helps choose the terrain. That is a different claim, and it is the one worth trusting. Now let us put evidence under the ritual, because a routine should earn its place before it becomes a habit. And this is why I never let lifestyle talk drift into magical thinking. A morning ritual can influence terrain, but it cannot see a polyp, biopsy, a nodule, or replace age-appropriate screening. The most protective mindset is both and. Build a better internal environment, keep regular checkups and recommended screening, and still act early when new symptoms or unusual changes appear. Because once biology has already crossed a line, it needs real medical attention. The strongest piece is not green tea alone. It is the combined direction of timing, movement, and food quality. The NCI notes that diet, physical activity, overweight, and energy balance can influence the chance of developing cancer. AICR states that physical activity lowers cancer risk and explains that movement can affect insulin and glucose metabolism, immune function, inflammation, sex hormones, and more. That is exactly why I care about the first hour rather than one ingredient. Then we add the food pattern. AICR emphasizes that no single food can protect you against cancer by itself, but diets rich in vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and other plant foods help lower risk for many cancers. Soy foods are on that list, and AICR also states that soy foods are safe to eat and are not linked to an increased risk of cancer. In some breast cancer survivor data, moderate soy intake is even associated with better outcomes. That does not make natto a treatment. It does make soy a reasonable anchor for a morning meal. Green tea sits in a more limited evidence lane. NCCIH and NCI both say the human evidence is mixed and not strong enough to say green tea prevents or treats cancer. But moderate beverage use is generally safe for most adults, while concentrated extracts have raised safety concerns, including rare liver problems. So the medical version of this ritual stays with tea in a cup, not catechins in a bottle. Now here is the protocol I would actually give a patient. Wake up and get light exposure within the first 30 minutes when possible. Open the curtains immediately, and if you can walk outside, do that for 5 to 10 minutes. If your knees limit you, stand on a porch, near a window with brighter natural light, or walk slowly in a safe hallway. The goal is signal, not performance. Then drink unsweetened green tea, or use plain water first if your stomach is sensitive. You do not need a ceremonial bowl. You need a repeatable cup. One serving is enough. If caffeine bothers you, choose a lighter brew or discuss decaf options. Then eat a calm, savory meal within a reasonable window, especially if delaying food makes you overeat later. Good examples are tofu with vegetables, natto with a small bowl of rice and greens, miso soup with tofu and mushrooms, or even a non-Japanese version that keeps the same logic, like eggs with vegetables and beans. The ritual is Japanese in pattern, not in rigid nationalism. That flexibility is important, because the benefit dies when the ritual becomes too hard to repeat. Now let me show you the 4 common mistakes that quietly kill the value. Mistake 1 is turning the tea into dessert. Bottled green tea, cafe matcha drinks, and sweetened powder blends can carry enough sugar to wipe out the calm metabolic start you were aiming for. The label may say tea. Your bloodstream will hear sugar. Mistake 2 is chasing the chemistry while ignoring the clock. Some people buy expensive tea, then stay indoors, skip movement, and eat at random times. That is backwards. Timing is part of the intervention. Mistake 3 is taking the idea too far. A giant salty breakfast, 3 cups of strong tea on an empty stomach, or supplement stacks in the name of DNA repair can create a new set of problems. More is not smarter. Mistake 4 is making the ritual so perfect that it collapses by Thursday. A habit only protects when it survives real life. Travel days, poor sleep, early appointments, and low motivation must already have a simpler backup version. This is what I tell patients. Protective routines should have a full version, a short version, and an emergency version. The full version is 10 minutes of light walking, a cup of unsweetened green tea, and a savory breakfast with soy or another protein plus fiber. The short version is 2 minutes outside, tea in a travel cup, and a small protein-first breakfast before the day gets away from you. The emergency version is one rule only. Do not let the morning begin with darkness, sitting, and sugar altogether. That single adjustment can already change the direction. And that is how compliance becomes real. You do not need imported dishes, perfect chopsticks, or a romantic fantasy about Okinawa. You need repetition. You need a body clock cue, less morning sugar, more early movement, and a breakfast that does not flood the system and disappear. This is also where many viewers feel relief. Because once you understand the mechanism, the habit stops feeling mystical. It becomes logical. After 50, your body still has defense systems, but they need cleaner support. Morning timing can help organize the day. Movement can improve the biological climate. A steadier breakfast can lower the chaos that abnormal cells exploit more easily than healthy tissue does. Soy foods can fit that meal safely in moderate amounts. Green tea can be a useful beverage, but not a miracle and not a replacement for medical care. Here is the fresh 10-second tip I want you to remember. Before your first sip and first bite, ask one question. Is this first hour waking up my body or confusing it? If the answer is darkness, sitting, and sugar, change one piece immediately. Open the curtain, walk to the gate, swap the sweet drink. Add tofu, eggs, beans, or greens. Tiny corrections repeat more easily. And mornings are where the payoff lives. So the real Japanese lesson is not exotic food. It is disciplined gentleness. Wake the clock, calm the fuel, repeat the signal. That is how a simple morning ritual can help make the body less welcoming to abnormal growth and more supportive of the repair work you still depend on every day. So if you remember the whole journey in one clear line, remember this. After 50, the body is still protective, but it is less forgiving. DNA damage can accumulate more easily with age. Immune watching can lose sharpness, and the internal conditions that help abnormal cells expand can become easier to create without anyone noticing. That is why the morning matters. It is not just the start of your schedule. It is one of the best chances you get each day to set timing, movement, and fuel in a direction that is steadier and less chaotic. And that is the value of this Japanese-style ritual. Not magic, not a guarantee, not a replacement for screening, diagnosis, or treatment. Just a disciplined first hour that supports the body you still have. Light, a little movement, unsweetened green tea in a cup, a calm, savory breakfast with soy or another steady protein and fiber. That pattern cannot promise cancer prevention, and honest medicine should never talk that way. But it can support a biological environment that is less friendly to disorder and more supportive of repair, metabolic control, and daily resilience. That means you do not need to wait for a perfect Monday. You can begin tomorrow morning. You do not need imported ingredients, perfect sleep, or a perfect kitchen to make this work consistently. At all. Open the curtain. Step outside. Walk for a few minutes. Drink the tea without sugar. Let the first meal be steady, not dramatic. Then repeat it often enough that your body recognizes the signal. Please share this with someone over 50 who still thinks morning habits are too small to matter. Subscribe if you want more calm, doctor-led guidance that turns complex biology into practical daily steps. And comment with one word, morning. Thank you for spending this time with me. Protecting health is rarely one giant move. More often, it is one wise signal repeated long enough to matter. Take care of your body, keep up with your medical care, and I will see you in the next one.
Understanding your health is important, and I am here to help guide you through it with confidence and clarity.
The body's internal clock, synchronized with the sunrise, sends activating signals throughout the system.
I understand the concerns, But it's crucial to remember that this is not magic, nor is it a guarantee.